Hi guys, in this project we're going to create a 3D logo. We will be animating this later on down the track, but for the first section of this project we're going to model the logo. We're not going to be really concentrating on any texturing or anything. I've got some basic materials on here, but the main focus of this is going to be creating the actual structure, and then as I said, later on we'll do some basic keyframe animation with the logo that we've built. So you can see here I've got this logo. It's all in separate pieces. Each letter is currently in separate pieces, as you can see. And what we're going to do is create this geometry using a file we've created in Illustrator, a vector AI file. Now technically you could produce this same design directly inside Maya by using various modeling tools such as a cube, a cylinder, a boolean function, and some beveling and extrusions. Maya also has a type tool which allows you to create text as well. You'll find that under the create menu just here. But what we're going to be doing is using a tool called Bevel Plus. Now Bevel Plus is actually found under the create the surfaces menu set. Okay, under the surfaces menu just here it is, and you'll also find it on the surfaces tab just here. The reason that it's found within the surfaces sections of the software in Maya 2015 is that it actually is a tool that you use on curves rather than on polygons. So it's not within the polygon tab that you so far would be familiar with creating your geometry from. So what we're going to be doing, as I said, is creating this image inside Illustrator first and exporting it across. So I'm just going to switch over to Illustrator, and you can see here the file that I've created for my logo. So this is what gets imported into Maya. Now I'm not really going to spend too much time going over Illustrator. I want to focus primarily on the Maya aspects, but I'm going to rebuild this just so you can see that process, or something very similar to it. You can create whatever kind of logo you want. If you've already got a logo, then please feel free to use that. But as I said, yeah, I'll just create another one reasonably fast, because there are some things we need to be aware of for the creation of our Illustrator file. So the first thing that you'll need to be aware of is that you can't really have things off the sides of the artboard. I've got kind of these spares, and obviously I've just moved this demo one out of the way. These objects will actually show up in Maya if you leave them here. So generally it's a good idea to delete anything that you've got outside the artboard, or what might be a safer option is to just copy the final paths and objects for your logo into a brand new file. That way, if there are things sort of out here that you've been using that you might need again for a later project, you can always open this file back up and they'll still be there. So that's generally how I tend to work, and I'll show you that process using this as an example a bit later on. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is create the little square and the sphere. So I'm just going to grab the rectangle tool and just create just a square. Note that I don't have any fill on the objects I'm creating. I've just got a black stroke, and that's so I can see the lines in case I deselect them. Maya completely ignores any color from Illustrator. It just brings in the actual path vector information. So it ignores, you know, whatever fill or whatever color you have for your stroke. It ignores that entirely. Okay, so let's grab the ellipse tool. So for the one that I used as a demo, basically I just created an ellipse that was the same size as this. Actually, I made it a little bit smaller. I'll just grab the move tool, move this across. So it'd be a good idea for you to create your own logo rather than just kind of doing this kind of goofy, kind of silly one that I'm doing. Now, for my particular design that I had, if I switch that around, the fill and the stroke for a second, what I actually did was use the Pathfinder tool to cut this object out of this object. Now I'm going to duplicate this just so you guys, I can show you both versions, the difference between both when we get inside Maya. With this object, I'm going to use the Pathfinder, which you can find under the window menu just down here, and it'll pop up somewhere on the screen if it wasn't already open. And I've got mine set up down here, and I'll use the exclude just here. So if I click that, basically it cuts the middle of those two objects out. Now I should point out at this stage that it's probably a good idea that you get used to using a very neat Illustrator interface. I find a lot of people, a lot of students seem to have an extremely messy way of setting up Illustrator, or in fact they don't even set it up. They'll have random panels left all over the screen, you know, floating, you know, all of these will be kind of hanging off and getting in the way all the time. And I see people constantly working like this and having to move stuff around just to be able to get to their artboard. It's a really good habit to get into, actually organizing your interface and docking everything so that it's all kind of snapped in, and you can save these positions by coming up to this little menu up here. It may not say essentials, it may say any of these, but what you can do is go new workspace just there. So let's click on that, and I'm just going to give this just a name. Okay, give it a version number if you want, and hit OK, and you can see now I've got my preset. So if someone comes along and, you know, changes something, you know, like if they dump something there, and or maybe, you know, switch out to something else, I can just come up here and reselect mine. Okay, and you can see there that because I unsnapped that, it actually remembered it. You know, so you can do that. Now you can actually hit reset as well. So like if that was there and, you know, someone came along and went, okay, I'm going to be doing some typography, I've got that preset, I can just come back up to here, and if somebody's actually messed mine up, I should be able to just go reset, and you can see it snaps everything back into place. Keep your workspace clean, and you'll be able to work a lot more efficiently. Okay, so you can see there I've got my two different versions. I'll just create some text, so I'll just grab the text tool, and I'll do something similar to what I did before. So I just called it hype, and then I'll do a separate piece of text. I'll just kind of get that to scale. So once again, I've got my character panel here. All these different panels I'm using you'll find under the menu. So if you're looking for text and text options and stuff, what you'll want is the type panel just here, and character. So yeah, you can just kind of find the tools that you need. I'm going to go with a bold for this piece of text, and I'm going to increase the value up to about 100, or maybe not 100. Let's go 80. Yep, something like that. And then what I'm going to do is create another piece of text as a separate object, because I want smaller type that I can get lined up with this. So I'll just drag that down, and I'll just call this oops. Ooh, let's just quit that. The reason this is kind of occurring is that it's still creating text at this size. It's remembering the last font size I used, so I'm going to drop that back down to 40, and I'll switch it back out to regular, like that. There we go. Okay, now generally speaking, when I'm building if I'm building a new logo, what I'll actually do is not try and line things up perfectly while they're still set up as text, like actual typography, like this type objects. What we need to do is convert these to outlines first. So once you're happy basically with the spacing of your text and the size and the actual heaviness of the text, okay, and I'm pretty happy with this, you know, use all your character settings and so on to get what you want. Don't worry about the alignment per se. What we can do is select the text and come up to type, and we'll pop down to create outlines just here, Shift Control or Shift Command O. And what that'll do is create outlines. So these essentially are now structured or constructed in the same way as these. Okay, they just have outlines. Okay. Once you get to that point, you can actually start to kind of adjust the alignments and so on. So for me, I'm going to take this and just group this together so it both moves as a single piece. So we'll just group that. What I'm going to do, I just want these aligned basically so they're all level with one another. So what I'm going to do is align these to the left using this button just here. Okay, now that's going to align it to the edge of the page, and you can adjust that setting here. You can see here align to artboard, so it jumps to the page. If you had key object or selection, it would basically work. It would kind of keep them roughly where they are and just line them up here. But I can just move this across now without any issues. And what that's doing is keeping sort of everything more or less aligned. Now, the reason I'm doing that is that what I want to do is actually just drag these out until they're basically the same width just here. And what you can do is kind of drag that out, and you can see you get these smart little smart guides, which you'll find under the view menu just here. So it'll give you little green instructions or little snapping points so that you know that you're lined up with things. So if I kind of drag that out to there, you can see there the little green lines appear when I get lined up with certain other objects. So I can kind of line it up to there, for example. So this is now the same width. So I get a nice kind of block of text. So it can be something along those lines. Don't forget, we can always move stuff around in Maya as well. We don't really need to get everything perfect. Oftentimes, if you've been supplied a logo by a client or something for their business that they want you to use, then you know, everything's pretty much ready to go. All you've got to do is make sure you've got your outlines. Okay, so you just need to make sure everything is set to outlines. Okay, it doesn't matter if everything's grouped or anything like that. Maya will basically you know, kind of bring everything in. Now, remember, as I was saying, we've got this stuff here. We don't really want to have this stuff in the file because Maya will recognize this and import this as well. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is just copy all of this that I do want into a new file. Now, keep in mind, once again, it's not going to actually bring any of the color in. It'll just bring the actual curves in. So I tend to go to a stroke rather than a fill, and that allows me to see kind of overlapping objects like this. Alright, so let's select this. Let's just go to Edit Copy. We'll go File, New. It doesn't really matter what size it is, because we're only keeping the actual objects themselves, not the actual document artboard. We'll go to Edit, Paste, and now we have a brand new file that's nice and clean with no extra rubbish in. Okay, so we want to save this. So we'll go File, Save. Okay. Now I'm just using a reference folder here. We will create a project folder in Maya. So what we're going to do here is just give it a name. So I'll just call this Hype Demo 2. And we want to save it as an Adobe Illustrator file. Okay, so we're going to hit save, but there is a caveat to that, which I'll explain in a second. So Adobe Illustrator file, give it a name, hit save. Now Illustrator will always give you this Illustrator options panel. This is probably the most important part of creating a logo using an Illustrator file. And this is regardless of what 3D software you use. You need to check the version just here, and it has to be set to version Illustrator 8 just here. Now I've done this in Maya, 3D Studio Max and Lightwave, and all three software packages need Illustrator 8. I've never come across an instance where anything newer than an Illustrator 8 file actually works properly. Most of the time it just will not import the file at all, so always check this. If you need to resave your file, use the File Save As option and select Illustrator and then change it here. You can ignore everything else and just press OK. So we now have our 3D software ready Illustrator file, which we will be importing into our 3D software. So I'm going to leave this video here. In the next video we'll jump across to Maya and we'll import the Illustrator file and we'll create a 3D object from it.